Hey guys, it's Erica. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about how to plan your own solo trip. If you guys aren't familiar with my channel or myself, my name is Erica Sager and I just recently got back from a 34-day solo trip across the United States, mainly out west, and I have a little bit of experience. This was my second pretty long solo trip. So I just want to share tips with you guys and how I plan my trip so you guys can effectively plan your trip. If I sound sick, it's because I am. And I also want to thank today's sponsor, which is Ana Luisa Jewelry. I have partnered with them in the past and I'm very, very, very excited to be partnering with them again. As you can see, I am a little bit iced out right now wearing Ana Luisa, so I just want to talk about why I love them, and they are also running a huge sale right now, so I'll get to that in a little bit. But part of the reason that I love Ana Luisa so much is because they are a carbon and water neutral company. This means that they offset all of their carbon and water emissions, and they personally do this through forest preservation and water restoration projects. They're also a very transparent company, so if you guys are interested in looking into any more of their sort of environmentally friendly practices, they have all of these sort of reports on their website, and you guys can check out the link in my bio to look more into that, as well as their pieces. And I can really appreciate a company who is transparent about their environmental footprint, especially when it comes to the fashion sort of retail space. Another thing I really love about Ana Luisa is the fact that they donate 100% of their returned items that are nearly imperfect to Dress for Success, which is a nonprofit that helps low-income women prepare for job success and prepare for job interviews. So I really enjoy that they make social efforts such a core part of their business practice. And they are very high quality. I can feel them in my hands right now. They are weighty, they feel good on my neck. And I think the fact that they have a 365-day long warranty is just a testament to their customer service. They are very, very responsive, and they just want to make sure that you love their pieces. And then getting to the sale, right now they're having a sale for buy one get one 60% off. It's their biggest sale of the year, so be sure to use the link in my description box to check out their website. It's a great place to get some jewelry for your friends and family for the holiday season, and maybe to treat yourself too. Speaking of yourself, back to the solo trip planning. Decide who is going to come. You're probably pretty set on solo travel if you have searched up this video or stumbled upon it. Just consider that the more people that come, likely the cheaper it is going to be for you, but the more people you travel with, the more likely you are to have mismatched budgets, energy levels, and just expectations for your travel in general. There are so many different ways to travel, and what I love so much about solo travel is that you can switch it up at any time. If you aren't feeling what you're doing at any point, you can leave. You don't have to worry about other people, and you're also a lot less intimidating to other people. And in that way, I mean that it's so much easier to meet people, and I've made way more friends and met so many new, cool, interesting people when I travel alone versus if I travel with a friend or a group of friends. And then if you're not feeling a group of people or some people that you met, you can just leave. So definitely biased, but I really, really prefer it actually for the social aspect, which sounds a little backwards, but just trust me. But again, at the same time, the same sentiment applies for safety reasons. So if you are traveling alone, you're a lot less intimidating to people who want to commit crimes against you. So something to be aware of, especially if you're a solo traveler, especially if you're a female solo traveler. There are so many people that are living proof, myself included, that solo, especially female travel, is possible. You will see just how worth it is to travel by yourself and just kind of get enveloped into the world that way, because you are just so much more receptive, I feel, for all the opportunities that the world has to offer you when you travel solo. It's actually kind of becoming a problem because I'd prefer to travel alone more often than not now. But the payoff of solo travel in my life has been immeasurable, and you guys will see that when you see the vlogs, so make sure you're subscribed because they're coming, and I pinky promise they're just around the corner. I swear, they're coming. A basic piece of advice, but an important one, is to decide where you want to go, where you're willing to go, or where you're actually able to go. So that could be determined by barriers such as language or price or your time that you have to travel. So if you don't have a lot of time, I would really recommend sticking to fewer cities. I would recommend at least spending like 2 full or 3 days in a city. You don't want to be hopping from one city to the next within 24 hours because number one, you're not going to get a taste of the city and you're going to wear yourself out a lot. And you'll spend a lot more on transportation. So I think it's better to just kind of dive into a few places if you have the time rather than just trying to hit all these places that you have on a list. So number 3, determine what your limits will be and how you're going to work around them. So for example, transportation, cost is going to be a big limitation for most people, and how much time you have off, because that's going to limit the amount of places you can go and how much time you will spend in each city. So if you know you only have time off in December and you don't know where you want to go, maybe look up something like top places to go in December, or look at a place you want to go and what kind of things go on there. So if it's somewhere like Germany and you can go in December, look up things like holiday, Christmas markets, because that is a really big thing there. Just be incredibly realistic with yourself. Delusion is not going to help you, and it's just you, so get comfortable with yourself. There's no judgment here when you're planning. Be so honest with your limits, your constraints, and your abilities, because you don't want to put yourself in an uncomfortable position, especially when you're alone. That's just the bottom line. But again, don't beat yourself up if things go wrong. It can be a really cool way to sort of like prove to yourself or show that you're capable of more than you think you are, especially when you're in a difficult situation. And also it'll teach you a lesson about your limits. So, little story time. When I was in Texas, I stupidly rented a sedan and I ended up in a sand ditch for a few hours. And I was not being realistic with myself when I rented that car because I wanted to save a little bit of money. I could have had to spend hundreds of dollars on a tow truck. By overestimating my driving abilities or this car's abilities, I ended up in a really unsafe situation with no cell service. Gratefully, I had a couple strangers help, and that was really beneficial. You guys will see that in a vlog for sure. But let me be the lesson. 5, when you're planning, do not try to cut costs too much. And when I say that, as a budget traveler, I mean sometimes when you book the cheaper airline for a 6 a.m. flight the next day to save, I don't know, $100 US, you're probably going to end up spending more. If they think your tiny carry-on backpack, which mine never is too big, they're going to force you to check a bag at the airport, which I think is like $60 or $70, so that's already cut out. There could be surge Uber pricing in the morning if you have to take an Uber from wherever you are to the airport. Granted, a lot of times you can take public transportation, but it might not be running at 4 in the morning. If you're staying this extra sort of day almost, you're going to spend more money on food, you might spend money on drinks, and you're bound to spend money on transportation as well. So just consider those extra costs, because most of the time you're not actually saving much money. So, but don't get me wrong, I fly Spirit and Frontier all the time. I do. Guilty. So number 6, when it comes to planning for your packing and what you're purchasing to bring, there are a few things to consider. And I wrote them down, so I'm going to read from a list right now. Weather, rain and temperatures, what activities you will be doing, safety, that includes like waste wallets, pepper spray, etc., and plan ahead for vital items. But worst case scenario, these days, sometimes you can actually have things rerouted or just shipped in general to your location. Check with the host or hotel or hostel, ahead of time, but sometimes you can have items shipped to the location you will be staying in, but most of the time it's best to just arrive with all your stuff. So that's just a little tip if things go awry. The next tip is to really utilize the Google Suite. So when I say that, I really just mean Google Docs and Google Sheets. I use Google Docs to plan most everything, my itinerary, my day-to-day, sort of what I need to bring, and just etc., sort of tidbits about the location I'm traveling. And I really like the fact that you can sort of title your hyperlinks and all those things. And then as for Google Sheets, I use that to sort of manage my budget. So I use a very simple sum function. It's like Excel. I'll put it here and you guys can use that, and I just sort of, as I go, put in what I'm spending based on the category, and that way I kind of track my spending and what I've spent preparing for the trip as well. It's really nice because it's free. It's very easy to share with friends and family, so if you have your itinerary on there and you're sharing that with your friends and family, you just put in their email, sends it to them, and they'll always have that on file. And then for you personally, you can access your documents offline, so if you don't have Wi-Fi or phone connection wherever you're traveling, you'll be able to kind of see where you're at, where you need to be, and stay on track and top of everything. And then number 7, as for safety concerns, like I said, this is usually my top concern, so I'm very thorough when it comes to planning for safety. Before you're going to go anywhere you're unfamiliar with, whether that's in your country or across border lines, you should look up the top scams that occur in this location. So that could be anything from pickpocketing to people putting bracelets on you and then demanding money. There are a lot of very niche scams that go on all across the world, and you want to be very up to date and knowledgeable on them so that you don't fall victim to them. So just being educated is the best way to go about most of these things. If you're nervous about sort of having money when you need to, you can exchange currency ahead of time. A lot of banks offer currency exchange, especially if it's something like US dollar to euro. I know my bank offers euros. Just having a little bit of cash before you get there can be really helpful to ease your mind, and then also being up to date and aware of where the best places to get currency are. Sometimes it might be a bank in the center of the city. Sometimes, even though the costs aren't desirable, the airport might be the safest, most reliable place. I don't think you should be relying on ATMs too much depending where you're going, because that's a really hot spot for robberies. Next is to try and arrive during the day if possible. That would be like a number 1 priority in my mind. I've done the opposite and I've just felt unsafe, and it's also not as enjoyable because you can't really see the city or get acquainted. So arrive during the day if you can. And then I know a lot of people kind of worry about this, so to put your mind at ease, maybe schedule a driver to your accommodation ahead of time. A lot of places you can book that online, and just make sure you're booking with a reputable, well-reviewed driver service, but also make sure you're up to date on what tipping is normal or customary and how much. I would recommend to enroll in the STEP program, which is the Safe Travelers Enrollment Program in the United States. Also registering with your embassy, whatever that is. It's just good for your country to know where you are, and you can get alerts on, civil unrest, political things going on, natural disasters, and also I believe you get domestic alerts as well. So just being up to date and aware of what's going on around you and informed, and it's never a bad thing. So another thing to consider is travel insurance. This might not be something you think about often, but if you're leaving your country where you're covered and you also plan to lean into your adventurous side a little bit more, I'm talking parasailing, diving, the works, you might want to consider traveler's insurance. There are a lot of things that can go wrong on a vacation, especially when you're traveling alone. And then my last sort of safety planning tip is going to be to do research on the social, cultural, religious customs of the place you're traveling to. A lot of places are ruled by religious and cultural norms, the United States included. So it's good to be aware of those things in terms of hand signals even, like this means something terrible on another side of the world, but it means good in the United States. So be aware of that. Also, dress is really important. If you're going somewhere where modesty is of utmost importance, you want to subscribe to that. You don't want to stick out like a sore thumb. You don't want to be disrespectful in a place where you are a visitor. So just be respectful and really do research, because it's going to benefit you and everyone around you. Next tip, area number 8, is going to be accessibility and technology. If you were considering getting an international plan, if you're traveling internationally, I would definitely recommend it. You can go through your carrier, or you can also go through a local SIM card when you get there. When I was studying abroad in Spain, I did a plan through Vodafone, and I believe it was something like $25 for unlimited data. I just used my data to call my friends and family back home on apps. And then in the same vein of apps, I would recommend looking on Google, Reddit, whatever, to find out what the most used apps are by locals there, whether that's food delivery, reliable taxi service. And then lastly, in terms of the social aspect of solo travel, there are so many things I could say about this. If you think you're going to have a hard time meeting people, and trust me, it can be very hard to meet people, I would definitely recommend traveling and staying in a hostel. A lot of times I'll stay in like an 8-bed dormitory. Usually I like to just stay with females if it's not too much of a price difference, because they do charge you more. It's almost like a little messed up. They charge you, you know, a premium for being in a single gender room. A lot of hostels offer like free pub crawls or events or dinners. A lot of them that I went to in Europe did all of those things, and that made it really easy to meet people. Don't judge a book by its cover, talk to everyone, but again, be very sort of reserved in telling people that you're traveling alone. Don't tell people that. You can just say you're meeting a friend somewhere else, or you're visiting a friend but you're staying in the hostel. If you have to lie, because your safety is the #1 priority. And then I've never used Bumble BFF personally, but I have friends who have used it and really liked it, and you can meet a lot of other solo travelers through that app. Again, don't tell people you're traveling alone, but it's a really great way to meet other people who are basically on the same page as you and want to meet other people in a new city. Another great resource is going to be Facebook for events, and meetup.com might be a thing wherever you're traveling. I know it's huge in the United States. I don't know about other countries. And then my last sort of tip for planning is just to do exactly what you want to do. Don't forget that if you're not feeling it, you don't have to stay. You get to decide what you're doing, when, and where. So enjoy that, and that's the best part of solo travel. You might have been on someone else's schedule in the past, but now you're completely on your own. You don't have to worry about anyone else's budget, time, or if they're having a good time. So lean into the beautiful loneliness and enjoy your time with yourself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you got some tips. Feel free to share some of your own tips in the comments below. Like the video and subscribe if you aren't already. And don't forget to check out Ana Luisa's big sale, buy one get one 60% off. It's a very great deal and I love my pieces. So thanks for watching. Bye guys.